Hello, everyone. So, today we shall be looking at identification of plastic and rubber. Identification of plastic and rubber. All right. So, in this topic, we shall be looking at the properties, classifications, and processing method of these two materials called plastic and rubber. All right. So, let's dive into this. Firstly, let's look at the plastic. What is plastic? All right, plastic is a lightweight material produced through chemical processes. So, the lightweight material, that means it's not heavy and it is produced through chemical processes. Plastic becomes soft and pliable when it undergoes heat. This heat allows it to form into various shapes before it solidifies. When plastic solidifies, you can't mold it into any shape you want. But when it undergoes heat and it becomes pliable and soft, that is when you can what? You can mold it into any shape you want, whether plastic plate, plastic cup, whatever shape you want, at its softened and pliable stage. Alright, that's the nature of plastic. You see some of the worker here, going carrying out the process of producing plastic here. Now, I will say that let's talk about the classes of plastic that we have. You see, you in our various home we use different types of plastic. We use plastic for cup, even plastic spoon, plastic knife, and so on. But they are categorized into two classes. We have the thermoplastic, and then we have the thermoset. For the thermoplastic, they become soft when heated without changing their properties. All right. So when you want to know a thermoplastic, you subject it to heat. Then it gets softened, and it will not change any of its properties that it possesses. Again, one characteristic of thermoplastic is that it can be remolded repeatedly. You can remold thermoplastic repeatedly without getting deformed. Examples of thermoplastic are plastic plates, bucket, cups, and so on and so forth. And then the second class of plastic that we have is known as the thermoset. For this particular class, when you subject this plastic to heat, it cannot be remolded. Once you have subjected thermoset plastic into to heat, you can never get any other shape from it again. An example of such plastic are cooking utensils and those and telephone parts. So these are the two major classes of plastics that exist. All right, I will say that let's not talk about the key properties of plastic in general, whether it's thermoplastic or it's thermoset. Generally, they have properties, the same properties. Number one, plastic generally are lightweighted. They are not heavy. So that's one of the things we need to know, that this is a plastic. Very, very light in weight. Okay? And then because of the lightweight, it makes them ideal for portable applications, right? Like the cup that we use in drinking water. You don't want to carry an heavy cup because you want to drink water, or heavy plate because you want to eat your food. You understand? So it makes it very, very ideal for portable applications. All right. So plastics are also insulators. They have insulating property. Simply, they are not good conductors of heat. And because of this property, you can use them as insulator in electrical gadgets. Okay, so they are excellent material for insulation, so that there will not be any form of electric shock, because they are not conducting electricity. Neither do they conduct heat. They do not conduct heat. When you subject plastic to heat, instead of it to conduct heat, it will get melted. Another property of plastic is that plastics are affordable. They are not expensive to produce at all. The process of producing plastic is very, very cheap. The materials are cheap, the processes are cheap, so they are not expensive to produce. And lastly, plastic have corrosion resistance. Simply means that they cannot be weighed off by chemical degradation, okay, and environmental damage. Plastic can be in an environment for months, for years, and it will not wear off, it will not fade off, because that is one of its characteristics. All right, we are going to look at the advantages and the disadvantages of plastic. Whatever has advantage, we definitely have disadvantage. Now let us look at three advantages of plastic. Number one, plastic are lightweight and portable. That's an advantage because you can easily move them from one place to the other. You can easily use them to make whatever appliances that are needed to be portable. Okay, you can use plastic to make them, like we mentioned earlier, our cup, our spoons, our plate, and so on and so forth. Another advantage of plastic is that plastic are moldable into diverse shapes and sizes. So when you get the plastic and subject it into it, you can mold them into any shape you want. All right. If it is the first class of plastic, you can remove and remove and remove. But for the thermoset one, you cannot remove, but it's still moldable for the first stage. Okay. All right. Another advantage is that plastic are cost effective. Okay, meaning that they are not expensive to produce. So that's an advantage. So it's affordable. Okay, so these are the three advantages that we can get from plastic. All right, I will say that let's look at the disadvantages of plastic. Number one, some plastics produce toxic fumes when burned. When you burn a plastic, the fume that come out of it can be very toxic. Some of the plastics can be very toxic to the human health. That's a disadvantage. So that means you should not dare to burn plastic because you do not know the one that might be toxic to you. So it's a disadvantage. Another disadvantage of plastic is that plastic creates environmental litters and pollution. A lot of people will get plastic bottle water and drink and discard it. They are not degradable. They do not melt like on their own and fade off. So they constitute environmental pollution. You go to the gutter, you see plastic, that can even stop the flow of water, mess up the water, mess up the road. So these are the two disadvantages of plastic. All right. I won't talk about plastic. Now let's go into rubber. For rubber, a lot of us we know this material a lot. So rubber itself is a non-metal product, more elastic than plastic. When we say elastic, we mean that when you stretch it, it can easily return to its original length. That is the nature of rubber. So it's more elastic than plastic, and then rubber float on water. Rubber is so light that it cannot sink. It means that its density, the density of rubber is much more lesser than that of water. And that is why it can float on water. Basically, we have two types. Just like we have two classes of plastic, we have two types of rubber. We have the natural rubber that are gotten from latex, and this latex are extracted from rubber tree. So we have natural rubber that are extracted from rubber tree, and we also have the synthetic rubber that are derived from petroleum. So these are the two categories of rubber: the natural rubber and the synthetic rubber. Okay, based on their source of production. Now, what are the uses of rubber? We use rubber to make vehicle tires. You see the vehicles you see on the road, their tires are made of rubber, okay, because of its elasticity property. So they are used in making vehicle tires. We also use rubber in making waterproof products, like our raincoat. When you put on your raincoat, you find out that the raincoat is not soaking because it's waterproof. We also we used to make a waterproof boots. We used to make a waterproof bucket, okay, for water protection. Another area of application of rubber is in the aspect of protective gears, like our hand gloves and electrical insulation for safety. So, because of the fact that they are good insulator, you can use rubber to make hand glove, so that when you are working with electrical materials, you don't get electrocuted. And lastly, we use we use rubber in aspect of elastic application, like shock absorber in the vehicle and other elastic components in various products. All right, so I want to say that let's now look at the process of making plastic before that of rubber. The first stage in this process is called the vacuum forming. The vacuum forming involves heating the plastic sheet, the material that made up the plastic. You subject them to heat. After subjected it to heat, and then you mold them using what we call the vacuum pressure. So the vacuum forming is a process of heating the plastic sheet and molding them so that you get the plastic texture that you want. So having done vacuum forming, the next thing is to go into extrusion. Extrusion simply involves forcing the melted plastic that you have gotten from vacuum forming through a shaped die, the shaped material, to create continuous form. So by the time the melted plastic undergoes this process, then it comes out with a long form, very long and stretchy. And after this stage, you go into calendering. Calendering simply means passing this plastic through heated rollers. These rollers will now give the plastic a desired thickness. And after this stage, you also make the plastic go through compression molding. This is also applying heat and pressure, this time around, to shape the plastic in molds. Okay, to shape the plastic in molds. In particular, when you talk about molds, you talk about the shape that you want. So, and the last stage in this process is making the plastic undergo injection molding. Injection molding is a process where the plastic is still, put into molds, but through injection method. So you inject this plastic into what? Into mold. Okay, the first stage you compress it into mold, and in this last stage you inject the melted plastic into mold for a precise shape exactly that you want. So these are the 5 stages involved in processing plastic. So having said that of plastic, we need to know that of rubber too, the process of making rubber. The first stage is the same as that of plastic, vacuum forming. That means you subject the rubber sheet to heat and then mold it using vacuum pressure. Having undergone that stage, you take the rubber to another stage called the extrusion, just like that of the rubber of plastic. In this case, you force the melted rubber through a shape die for continuous production. Okay, and then the third stage is calendering, just the same way for plastic. That means you let the plastic to go through rollers, okay, through rollers that are heated up for uniform thickness, so that there will be uniformity in the thickness of the rubber. And last stage is the compression molding. by applying heat and pressure to shape the rubber in mold. So in this stage, there is no injection. In this process, there is no injection molding. Its own process stop at compression molding, unlike that of plastic. Now, let us now compare plastic and rubber. What are the key differences? When it comes to their property, the elasticity property, you find out that plastic has low elasticity, while rubber has higher elasticity. In terms of heat response, plastic respond to heat based on the different types, whether it's thermostat or thermoset, whether it's thermoplastic or thermoset. Meanwhile, for rubber, it's elastic. It's elastic. So when you subject it to heat, it's elastic and it returns back to its shape after you remove the heat. Then for water resistance, plastic are good water resistant, but rubber are excellent rubber water resistant. The aspect of floatability, plastic varies based on the type, whether it's thermoset or thermoplastic, it varies. But for rubber naturally float on water. And in terms of cost, plastic are very, very cheap to produce, but rubber are moderately cheap to produce. All right. So I hope you have learned something today. We shall be doing the cutting here today. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.